Hi. Okay, so this morning I was working with Saint Germain and the Violet Flame, and he gave me an analogy that I thought might be helpful for all of you. So for the longest time, I would judge my healing journey, right? I would judge my uh, the fact that I would feel like, okay, I've gotten done. Like I would feel like I reached a certain level, completed a certain level, and then it wouldn't actually be done, right? It was more like, I guess, if you're in a war, a long war, it would be like the battles were finished, but the war wasn't won. So I've often heard of that saying that the, the the healing process is like an onion, right? Uh, New layers come up to the surface, and that part I agree with. What I don't agree with is the other sentiment that your healing is never done. I do not agree with that. Healing can be complete. I have experienced this in particular. Now, this one, I think the most dramatic example I can give you of my own healing journey being done is when healing from some sexual molestation that I experienced as a teenager from a family member, and the grooming that was happening. I didn't go, at least as far as I can remember, consciously remember, it didn't cross the line into, trigger warning. I should have said that a while ago. Rape, or could have been sodomy. Anyway, sorry. I digress. I did not want to go there. Oh well, authentically in, right? This is my authentic story. Anywho, it took me a long time to process that, coupled with the reactions of my parents, and the whole aftermath of everything that had happened. It was a very traumatic experience, and I worked and worked and worked on that for years, literal years. Actually, about 17 years before I finally realized that I was no longer getting triggered around the anniversary date of when things were happening. And because what was happening before is that during the anniversary of some of the more poignant abuse, I would start to get sick every year without fail. A lasting cold, cough, whatever. Sometimes I would, depending on the year, I might trip into like a big depression. And so anyway, after diligent work with an amazing therapist, lots of journaling, self-healing, all of that stuff, I was rid of it. And the way that I knew that I had actually healed from that is, I was no longer triggered. Every time I ran into that family member, when I thought about what happened, the scenario, it was complete. There was no more anything. And so I know that full healing is absolutely possible. Maybe about a decade or two later, did I have some, maybe a little remnant here and there? Yes. But that only happened this year. This is a 9 year. This has been a tremendous year of closing out everything, right? Like everything that does not align with who I am and like the real me or who I am now. So I think those were just like scragglies, but nothing that got me down in the dumps like what had happened previously. Okay, so I give you that story because number one, you can absolutely heal. Don't buy into the story that healing is never done, because if you buy into that story, then guess what? That becomes your reality. So I do claim for myself, and I claim it for you if you want. You claim it for yourself. Obviously, you're a sovereign being. Just claim that, yeah, you can have a complete and full healing of anything, no matter how dark. Okay, so that's one. And two. The important thing that I wanted to share with you from working with Saint Germain this morning. Saint Germain, for those of you who don't know, one of his gifts through the violet flame is alchemy, right? Transmutation. That's part of what all flames do, help transmute, but there's something about the spiritual power of the violet flame. So what he shared with me this morning that I found so helpful, and I want to share with all of you, is he reminded me not to fret when the alchemical process, I'm reading this now, occurs in stages. And he gave me the analogy of creating an elaborate cake. So, when you're creating, let's think of like a wedding, a big multi-tiered wedding cake, right? Elaborate cake. When you're creating a cake, and I'm not a baker, but when you're creating a cake, you can't just put all the ingredients, whip it up and voila, it's done. It doesn't all happen at the same time. The process occurs in stages, and in stages that require like a sequential order to it. And I don't know why this analogy helped me so much, but it did, because prior to this I would judge myself, because basically I'd be like, well, the cake layer number 1 is done. It's baked, it's cooled, I should be good to go. Like, I should be all healed. But no, layer number 2 was being baked. and then layer 3. And then finally, when all of that was, cooled off or whatever, then it was the icing turn, and then it was the decoration turn, right? Like, you get my point. But now I'm realizing that everything has been happening step by step. There's an order to it. And to trust it, to really trust that no, the universe is not going to throw in all the ingredients for the icing into the cake batter, because that's not where it belongs, and that's not the stage, and that's not the timing of it, right? So, whatever it is that your healing or your spiritual evolution or your growth, whatever it is that you're personally dealing with, just try to remember, it's not just divine timing. It is also the divine order of things. The process doesn't just happen all at once in the 3D. It can happen all at once in the 5D, in the spiritual realm, in the ethereal realm, but it can't happen all at once in the 3D. It's in this dense reality, in this human form, our healing journey, our transformative journey. Our evolution from from caterpillar to butterfly, it happens in stages. And to not be afraid of that, to not judge yourself for that, because you're still doing a great job. Each step has been important. Each step that you've been taking is acknowledged. It was vital, and it sets you up for what's next. So I'm really proud of you. Keep going. Trust yourself. Trust the process. Trust the divine. Yeah. Okay. Love you. Bye.